All right, welcome to today's Explainer, where we are jumping straight into a genuinely chilling psychological mystery. Just picture this for a second. You are fast asleep in your apartment. It's the dead of night. And suddenly the dead silence is completely shattered by your phone ringing. You look at the clock. It's exactly 2:17 a.m. This is the terrifying premise we're breaking down today. Our protagonist, Daniel, wakes up, reaches blindly into the dark for his phone, and checks the screen. The caller ID isn't an unknown number. It's not some random telemarketer. It's his own phone number, literally staring right back at him. Seriously, I want you to ask yourself right now, what would you do if your phone rang in the middle of the night and your own number was calling? It's exactly the kind of thing that makes your blood run cold, right? Well, Daniel actually answers it. At first, there's nothing, just heavy, frightened breathing on the other end of the line. Then, a voice speaks his name and gives him a very specific, chilling warning. Don't go home tomorrow. When Daniel tries to protest, saying he's already home, the voice insists. It tells him that tomorrow night, when he goes home, he absolutely must not open the front door. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is where the story hooks you and simply refuses to let go. The voice on the phone tells Daniel not to open the door because someone will be standing outside. His brother. Now, what's the problem here? Daniel's brother, Michael, has been dead for 11 years. When Daniel frantically tries to call the number back, it doesn't even connect. Instead, his phone screen just flashes a message, "Call scheduled." And the time? 2:17 a.m. for the very next day.
Part 1. The Impossible Phone Call.
So Daniel does what I think most of us would try to do. He tries to brush this off as a bad dream born from pure exhaustion. He goes to work, trying to keep up a sense of normalcy, but despite his best efforts, his phone just starts texting him impossible clues. First, he gets a text telling him not to forget the Red House. That's the childhood home he hasn't even visited since his parents died. When he texts back asking how they know about it, the reply is instant, "Because you were there when Michael disappeared." That night, he finds an old photo of him and Michael at that exact house, and written on the back is 2:17 a.m. Just as the clock strikes 2:17 again, his phone rings. Voice says, "Don't open the door tomorrow." And then, 3 slow knocks at his apartment door. A voice calls out, "Daniel?" It's Michael's voice. And the terrifying realization hits Daniel like a total freight train. The warning on the phone never said to stay away from his brother. It just said, "Don't open the door."
Part 2. Entering the Red House.
Unsurprisingly, Daniel heeds that warning. He spends the entire night just sitting on his floor, absolutely terrified, refusing to even go near the door. When he finally opens it hours later in the daylight, the hallway is empty. But a small envelope has been left behind. Inside is a photo of his childhood home at night. Looking closer, he sees himself standing in the upstairs window, wearing clothes he doesn't even own. And get this, the photo is dated for tomorrow. Daniel is thoroughly spooked at this point, so he goes straight to the police. He explains the whole thing, but the officer just tells him to leave it alone because the Red House has been empty for 11 years. But then, the officer shares this mind-bending fact. Someone has been calling the cops from that abandoned house every single year, on the exact same date, at exactly 2:17 a.m. And this brilliantly illustrates just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Daniel simply can't leave it alone. He drives to the Red House. Even as his phone is actively texting him warnings not to go inside, he discovers something totally impossible through the window. The hallway is lined with photographs. Dozens of them, all showing Daniel at different ages, wearing different clothes, but all inside this very house. And specifically, he finds photos labeled the first time, the second time, and so on, all the way up to the number 17. 17 photographs representing 17 entirely different versions of the exact same night. While he's taking this all in, the front door suddenly opens. A man who looks exactly like Daniel, bearing the exact same scar above his eyebrow, smiles and says, "You're late." Daniel, understandably, bolts. He flees back to his apartment where he receives another call from himself, telling him he's tried to change the past 17 times and forgets every single time. The next morning, Daniel finds a hidden notebook in his apartment containing these super specific survival rules. 1. Don't trust the phone. 2. Don't trust the man in the house. 3. Find the basement. And 4. Whatever you do, never let Michael answer the phone.
Part 3. The Timeline Paradox.
Armed with these bizarre rules, Daniel returns to the Red House. The clock on the wall inside is completely frozen at 2:17. He finds a key, unlocks the basement door, and heads down into the darkness. Down there, sitting on a dusty old desk, is an old-fashioned landline telephone. He hears footsteps, shines his flashlight, and finally, he reunites with his brother Michael. But actually, scratch that. This Michael is an 11-year-old ghost. He's older. He's alive. So the crucial point is that this is where the entire reality of the story flips upside down. Daniel has spent the last 11 years believing Michael died in this house. But the dark truth, Daniel is the one who died that night. Michael just couldn't accept it, so he found this strange basement telephone and used it to call another timeline, creating a brand new reality where Daniel actually survived. And an even older, heavily scarred version of Daniel steps out of the shadows to explain this massive twist to him.
Let's quickly break down the mechanics of this multiverse because it's fascinating. Because Michael couldn't let his brother go, he basically splintered reality. Every single time someone tried to fix the events of that fateful night, they just created a brand new, doomed version of Daniel. That's what those 17 photographs meant. There are 17 overlapping realities, all trying to fix the exact same night. Think about the sheer weight of that for a second. 17 different versions of you, all trapped in the same nightmare, all converging at once. Because reality simply can't sustain this much pressure, all these timelines are now collapsing and converging on one singular event, 2:17 a.m. at the Red House.
Part 4, the ultimate plot twist. The tension in that dark basement is literally suffocating. You have multiple versions of Daniel, an older Michael, and the crushing realization that their entire existence is just a fractured time loop. And then the old basement phone rings. Daniel answers it. He hears a voice that shouldn't be possible. It's the voice of his mother, who passed away 15 years ago. Her voice is trembling as she delivers a terrifying warning. Don't trust Michael. He isn't your brother. Instantly, the older Michael starts shouting for Daniel to hang up the phone. But man, the seed of doubt is planted. Daniel suddenly realizes that they aren't just dealing with alternate timelines anymore. Something deeply malevolent, something capable of perfectly mimicking the voices of the people he loves most, is actively hunting them.
Now, what's really interesting about this next revelation is how it introduces a truly terrifying entity known as the Collector. The older Michael reveals that the phone is lying. The Collector is the force behind these deceptive calls, and it doesn't just want one version of Daniel, it wants all 17 of them. As he's explaining this, the lights start to flicker. Suddenly, every single phone in the house, the basement landline, their cell phones, the upstairs phones, begins ringing at the exact same moment. It is 2:17 a.m., the timelines are completely collapsing in on themselves, and hundreds of realities are overlapping in real time.
Part 5. Closing the loop. As the house literally morphs around them, like one version is burning, another is completely underwater, Michael grabs Daniel and yanks him through a hidden door behind the desk. Inside is a small, quiet room with just a single, ancient black telephone. Michael tells Daniel that this room is where it all began. This is where the very first call was made. And the person who made it was Daniel himself, right before he originally died. To truly understand this, we need to look at the loop paradox. The first call was young Daniel, absolutely terrified, calling for help right before his death. Michael's interference then created 17 alternate realities, splitting the timeline over and over again. A voice on the phone, the original first Daniel, tells our protagonist that you can't stop this collapse. The only way out of this nightmare is to make the last call. You have to call your past self. The first call and the last call have to be the exact same event. With the Collector mimicking Michael and rapidly closing in, Daniel runs for his life out of the shifting, chaotic Red House and throws himself into his car. At exactly 2:17 a.m., he dials his own number. A young, terrified voice answers the phone. And our Daniel, closing his eyes, recites the exact chilling lines we heard at the very beginning of this explainer. Don't go home tomorrow, because someone will be standing outside, your brother. With those words, he creates the first call, completing the paradox. And guess what? It actually works. The loop is closed. The Red House begins to literally vanish into thin air. The 17 overlapping timelines are erased one by one. A younger, normal-looking Michael appears beside the car window just to smile and say a bittersweet goodbye before he completely fades away. The phone stops ringing, and for the first time in what feels like an absolute eternity, the digital clock on the dashboard ticks forward to 2:18 a.m. Daniel is finally seeing a future that hasn't already been written. Let's see how this builds, because if you thought Daniel was finally free and clear, you would be dead wrong. Sitting right there on his passenger seat is a crisp black envelope. Inside is a photo of Daniel and Michael standing at the Red House. But get this, it's dated 2037. That is 13 years in the future. Beneath the photo are the words, "This isn't over." On the back, there's an unknown phone number and a terrifying new instruction that simply reads, "Call me at 2:18." It is exactly 2:18 a.m. right now. His phone starts ringing with an unknown number. Terrified, Daniel just stares at it, refusing to answer. The ringing stops, but the heavy silence is immediately broken by a text message. "You should have answered." A moment later, a second message appears that literally makes the hair on the back of his neck stand up. "Because I'm standing behind you." Daniel slowly, carefully turns around in the dark.
He turns around to find a black door just standing freely in the middle of the empty road, bearing a strange golden key symbol. It slowly opens by itself, revealing a vast, impossible library filled with ticking clocks, endless books, and 7 mysterious doors. A voice tells him that this isn't the end. This is actually the Story Vault, the place where stories truly begin. As Daniel steps inside and the door shuts firmly behind him, the clock strikes 2:19 a.m., and somewhere out there in the darkness, a phone begins to ring. But this time, it's not calling Daniel. It's calling someone else. It leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought to chew on. If some calls can change your life, and some can completely change your past, what happens when a call changes the story itself?